Welcome back to Outside View Scandals. Today we're diving into one of the biggest financial scandals of the 21st century, the Panama Papers. A story of hidden wealth, offshore accounts, and a global web of secrecy that left world leaders, billionaires, and celebrities scrambling for cover. It's a tale that sounds like the plot of a Hollywood thriller, but the reality was far more scandalous. And let's start with the basics. The Panama Papers were a massive leak of financial documents, over 11.5 million files to be exact. And these documents came from Mossack Fonseca, a Panamanian law firm specializing in offshore finance. And when I say specializing, I mean they practically wrote the playbook on setting up offshore companies to hide money. Whether you were a politician looking to conceal bribes, a billionaire avoiding taxes, or a celebrity hiding assets, Mossack Fonseca had you covered. The leak occurred in 2016 and was handed over to the German newspaper Süddeutsche Zeitung by an anonymous source who went by the pseudonym John Doe. John Doe described their motivations as purely ethical, claiming they couldn't sit idly by while the rich and the powerful exploited loopholes to hoard wealth and evade accountability. Süddeutsche Zeitung then collaborated with the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, or ICIJ, to analyze the data. And this wasn't a quick job. It took over a year with hundreds of journalists from around the world working together to untangle the complex web of financial dealings. When the story broke in April 2016, it was a bombshell. The Panama Papers revealed the offshore dealings of some of the most powerful people on the planet. They were heads of state, business tycoons, athletes, and even Hollywood celebrities. The list included names like Vladimir Putin's associates, Icelandic Prime Minister Sigmund David Gunnlaugsson, and the family of former British Prime Minister David Cameron. And that's just scratching the surface. And now let's talk about what offshore accounts actually are. In theory, offshore companies and accounts are perfectly legal. They can be used for legitimate purposes like protecting assets in politically unstable regions or facilitating international business. But, and here's the kicker, they are also an excellent way to hide money from tax authorities, launder illicit funds, and conceal ownership of assets. And when you combine secrecy with the immense wealth of the world's elite, you got a recipe for scandal. The Panama Papers exposed how Mossack Fonseca had helped its clients create offshore companies in tax havens like the British Virgin Islands, Panama, and the Seychelles. These companies were often shells, that's legal entities with no significant business activity, used solely to hide money and assets. The leak revealed how these structures were exploited to evade taxes, avoid sanctions, and in some cases, finance criminal activities. Take Iceland, for example. The Panama Papers revealed that Iceland's Prime Minister, Sigmundur David Gunnlaugsson, had an offshore company that held stakes in Icelandic banks. This was a bit of a problem because Gunnlaugsson's government had been negotiating with those same banks after the 2008 financial crisis. The conflict of interest was glaring and the Icelandic people weren't amused. Mass protests erupted and within days, Gunnlaugsson was forced to resign. But the scandal didn't stop there. In Pakistan, the Panama Papers implicated then Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif and his family in offshore dealings. The papers revealed that Sharif's children owned luxury properties in London through offshore companies. This sparked a legal battle in Pakistan that eventually led to Sharif being disqualified from holding office and later convicted of corruption. And then there was David Cameron, the former British Prime Minister. The Panama Papers revealed that Cameron's late father had set up an offshore fund. While there was no evidence of illegality, the revelations raised questions about Cameron's own financial dealings and his government's stance on tax avoidance. The timing couldn't have been worse, as it came during his campaign to keep the UK in the European Union. Needless to say, that didn't help. Even sports and entertainment weren't immune. The papers exposed how top footballers and celebrities had used offshore accounts to hide earnings and avoid taxes. The scale of it all was staggering, painting a picture of a world where the rules seemed to apply to everyone, except the rich and powerful. But let's not forget about Mossack Fonseca itself. The law firm, once a pillar of the offshore finance world, became the poster child for corporate greed and corruption. And the leak was devastating for the firm. Its founders, Jürgen Mossack and Ramon Fonseca, claimed they had done nothing wrong and insisted their services were legal. But public perception was another story. The firm's reputation was in tatters, and by 2018, Mossack Fonseca announced it was shutting down. The fallout from the Panama Papers was massive. Governments around the world launched investigations, leading to arrests, resignations, and changes in tax laws. But here's the ironic twist. Despite all the revelations, the offshore industry didn't disappear. If anything, it adapted. Firms offering similar services simply moved to other jurisdictions, and the demand for offshore accounts continued. The scandal also highlighted the role of journalism in holding the powerful to account. The ICIJ's work on the Panama Papers was a landmark moment for investigative journalism, demonstrating the power of collaboration in uncovering complex global scandals. But it also raised questions about accountability. For all the names exposed, many of the ultra-wealthy faced few, if any, consequences. So what's the legacy of the Panama Papers? On one hand, it was a wake-up call about the scale of global inequality and the length to which the rich will go to protect their wealth. On the other hand, it showed how difficult it is to bring meaningful change to a system designed to benefit the elite. The scandal exposed the cracks in our financial systems, but it also underscored how resilient those systems are to scrutiny. So thank you for tuning in to Outside View Scandals, where we uncover the stories that shake the world and remind us that the truth is often stranger than fiction. And remember, the next time you hear about someone's investment portfolio, maybe ask if it includes a beachfront property in the British Virgin Islands. Until next time, and the next video is right here in the end screen.